All right, welcome back to the program. Correctional Service Canada confirmed last week the notorious killer Luka Magnotta has been transferred to a medium security prison, and it's here in Quebec. Now, you will recall that Magnotta murdered and dismembered Concordia student Jun Lin in 2012, and then mailed the Lin's hands and feet to elementary schools and federal political party offices at that time. Conservative MPs are criticizing the federal government following the news, and they're also saying that some of Canada's most horrific murderers are living better than most Canadians, considering that Paul Bernardo was also moved to a medium security prison last year. And we are also finding out that then Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino, his office, was told twice about the impending transfer of Luka Magnotta. Let's talk a little bit more about this with Frank Caputo, who is a Conservative MP in British Columbia and is also on the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Mr. Caputo, welcome to the program.
Great. Thank you for having me, Elias, and please just call me Frank.
Frank, thanks so much. So it's fair to say that you blew the lid off this one, right? You posted a video to social media based on a visit you had at this prison. Am I getting that right?
Yes, that's correct, but credit has to go to the Toronto Sun. They did confirm the Magnotta transfer about 12 hours before we posted the video.
Okay, so tell me about why make the trip, by the way? I know you're on the Standing Committee on Justice here, but why did you make this trip to this prison?
Well, a lot of people don't know, but a member of parliament can enter any penitentiary, and sometimes you just have to see for yourself. It's incumbent upon us as MPs to kind of get our hands dirty, in my view, and to actually see. True leaders don't just kind of lead from an ivory tower. They get on the ground. They get to the food bank. They talk to people who've lost their jobs. So for me, it was just kind of getting my hands a little bit dirty and seeing how is it that people like Luka Magnotta, Paul Bernardo actually live. I want to see for myself, and so I decided to make the trip into Quebec to see that.
So how did we get here, Frank? Because, I think most Canadians do want a justice system and a prison system where there is rehabilitation when possible. But I don't think anyone wants this, right? And of course, if we were to open up our phone lines to listeners, boy, would we hear it from people that can't believe this. But we still want a system that has some element of rehabilitation. But how did we get here? How did we get to our worst killers getting to be in medium security?
Well, that's a great question, and I echo your sentiment. We do want rehabilitation, and there is a place for minimum security, there's a place for medium security, and there's a place for maximum security. But if we look at what Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government has done over the past 8 years, particularly on the justice file, and in this conversation, I reference Bill C-83, which was a Liberal bill that talked about people who are incarcerated being confined in the least restrictive environment. It's not surprising to me that when you apply the policies that have been put in place, that people like Bernardo and Magnotta do end up in medium security.
So if you're applying that policy, can you take me through the decision-making process? Because we have a terrible person. Some would call him a monster or dismembered someone. What are the boxes being checked where under the current policy it says, yep, this person can be in medium security? Take us through that process.
Sure, certainly. I used to work in federal corrections prior to going to law school and becoming a prosecutor, so I know this area fairly well. Generally, there's a human element that looks at all of the things, but people are considered based on how they do in jail, as in, do you get into fights? We call that institutional adjustment. I understand the next category at this time is escape risk. Are you likely to escape? Are you going to make attempts to escape if the opportunity presents itself? And then the last is public safety risk. How high of a risk are you for public safety? And if you punch those numbers in, it gives you something that will say this person is medium, this person is minimum, this person is maximum, based on how likely they are to escape their public safety risk. So conceivably, it would seem that you can have somebody that's an extremely high public safety risk, but they may not actively try to escape. And it would seem that person might end up in medium security. I haven't seen the analysis of Bernardo and Magnotta, so I'm just left to surmise that that's how they got there.
So that's how they got there. Clearly not what Canadians think overall on what someone who's done terrible crimes, where they should end up. So what would you change? How would you change the system in order to avoid a scenario like this?
Well, the first starting point is Bill C-83. We have to address that. And rather than talking about what is the least restrictive environment, we need to look at something that would consider what is a just and appropriate standard. We're talking here about a really small number, but that small number of people have done horrible things. And I think if you were to speak to Canadians, and not necessarily conservatives or liberals or people on the left, that most people unanimously say, look, we have very strong feelings about this. The question that I think we need to be asking is this just? Is it appropriate? No one's saying that you should be denied your human rights of shelter and food and things like that. Where the question is should you have the amenities that come with medium security? Like a workshop, like a beautiful gymnasium. I saw a hockey rink. Corrections Canada says it hasn't been operational. I saw nets, so I'm not sure how they get there, but who knows? Hopefully we can get to the bottom of that.
Frank, we're with the Conservative MP, Frank Caputo, and he's also on the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. This is a political loser for the Liberals. Like, you poll Canadians, hey, should Luka Magnotta and Paul Bernardo be in medium security? It's a political loser, yet nonetheless it happens. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that perhaps people think that it just won't happen, or you've got people who are expected to carry out the policy. That's just the reality of it. When I was a prosecutor, I had policies, and it was expected that I would carry them out whether I agreed with them or didn't agree with them. If you're a person who works in the Correctional Service of Canada and you have a policy that says on the books, Paul Bernardo is supposed to be transferred here pursuant to Bill C-83 and the regulations that followed and the policy that followed, I think that's exactly how it happens. If you tell people to do their job, you shouldn't be expected when they actually do their job based on the law, regulation, and policy that you've put before them.
Is Canada's criminal justice system right now in 2024 too lax?
I think we have room in certain areas where we need to address. I mean, gangland homicides are up substantially. Gun crimes are up substantially. Auto thefts are up substantially. Bail, in my view, is broken. So we've got issues on sentencing. The area where I used to prosecute most was on sexual offenses against children. And I see alarmingly low sentences, particularly for all sexual offenses, but even for sexual offenses against children where victims are themselves living a psychological life sentence of trauma. I think that sentencing in those areas, guns, especially for fentanyl, serious drugs, things like that, we really have to address these things. And after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, I see no political will on behalf of the Liberal government to do that.
What do you say to a Canadian who does want a little bit of a tougher stance on crime, but also doesn't want to go to an era where we're just building lots of prisons and the prisons are filled and we're just putting more and more people in jail? What do you say to someone like that?
Well, what I would say is this, is that we're looking at a very small group of people who disproportionately cause a substantial amount of crime, harm, and violence. So, for instance, the jails that I've been in recently, a lot of them are only partially full, if believe it or not. So this idea that people are being over-incarcerated, and it's just not there right at this time. I think that one of the minimum security jails I went to was literally half full, if memory serves. So I think you can take a nuanced approach. This isn't, from a conservative point of view, we want to stop the crime, but we want to stop the people who are committing the really significant crimes and who are really, proficient and prolific at doing so. And that's a really small number. So you're not going to see a groundswell of people occupying the penitentiaries because we're going to be looking at those who disproportionately cause the most crime, those who are the ones who are consistently stealing your car, causing break-ins, who are committing violent and sexual offenses, and all sexual offenses are violent, obviously. Those are the people who should be targeted so they can take comfort in knowing that a conservative government will address these priorities.
Frank, we have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and it's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. That's Frank Caputo right there, Conservative MP from British Columbia, also on the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights.